All right, great people who weren't great. We're not gonna judge them for how they act or how they can't defend themselves on this video, but we're gonna watch it, man. Let's see.
The virtue that many of us aspire to achieve, whether that be through the skills we develop or the impact we have on others. We all have something in our lives that we wish to be great at. But there's a level of greatness that some of us achieve that goes far beyond what we expect from most people, where they make such a significant contribution to the world that
Nelson
we
Mandela,
as a society
Muhammad
have
Ali.
decided that these are the figures who are great enough to be taught in school, great enough to be quoted, and great enough to be revered in our collective conscience. But in the process of venerating those who did great things, we often fail to learn the full picture of who they are as people, only learning the good, but not the bad or ugly side of them, allowing us to succumb to the halo effect. The error we make when a person's achievement allows us to be blind to everything else about them. Now, to clarify, my intention is not to discredit their actual achievements, nor am I interested in canceling anyone. I'm also not going to mention things people did that were unsurprising for their time, because applying today's expectations on the people of yesterday makes absolutely no sense.
Alright, shout out, that makes sense.
Most people in human history were probably racist, or sexist, or homophobic, or whatever else you can think of. So I'm not really interested in virtue signaling about how someone 100 years ago said something problematic. However, if what they did contradicts what made them great to begin with, that's fair game. And so, I present to you great people who weren't great people.
Alright, let's get into it.
We'll start with pissing off an entire nation of fake accents by talking about Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill.
Alright, I know about Mr. Churchill.
Churchill, better known as that guy who defeated Hitler. To this day, the British consistently regard him as one of the greatest Britons to have ever lived. And if all you know about Churchill are his achievements as the UK's leader against the Nazis, you'd probably feel the same way. But here's the hard truth. If it wasn't for World War II, Churchill would have been remembered for much worse. And that's being generous, since he likely wouldn't be remembered at all. Despite being one of history's most staunch opponents of the Nazi regime and its hateful ideology, he had surprisingly similar views that a racial hierarchy existed, believing that white Protestants were at the top, followed by white Catholics, then Indians, and then Africans. Apparently the other races didn't matter enough. Again, I'm not interested in bringing up all his comments.
Alright, now I need him to drop the facts of where he said that at, because I can't just go off of it. I need him to tell me where Churchill said this at. It's one of their top people.
Those ideas were mainstream. But even during that time, his views on racial supremacy to justify...
I do not really think that black people are as capable or as efficient as white people. No, Winston.
British imperialism were considered to be fringe and extreme. As late as 1955, 10 years after defeating the Nazis, he reportedly suggested the phrase, "Keep England white," as a good slogan to use against immigration.
Hey man, they've been killing us, man. They've been knocking off all the ethnicities and the Brits, man, and even in our Americas. Or they be trying to keep the border closed, man. I don't understand the division. The last video we watched, man, we trying to conquer space. We got to get our stuff together, bro.
Perhaps the worst stain on Churchill's legacy is his action, or rather, lack of action, during the Bengal famine of 1943. While British officials begged for food supplies to be directed for India, Churchill and his cabinet ordered 170,000 tons of wheat from Australia to be transported to Europe in order to build a stockpile for European civilians. Let me say that again. He ordered food to pass by millions of starving people, who were his British subjects at the time, in order to be used for storage in Europe. But this isn't terribly surprising, given that he once said, "I hate Indians.
Oh, dang,
They are
bro.
a beastly people with a beastly religion."
That's crazy.
As well as blaming the famine severity on his view that Indians breed like rabbits. By the time he finally approved for food to be sent, up to 3 million people were already dead. Lastly, the man hated Gandhi with a passion, since he represented a largely peaceful movement advocating for Indian independence. Consistent with earlier points about his belief that certain races were inferior to others and his general disdain for India.
I don't understand why we always gotta be on the bottom. Why do African people always at the? We could have been third. We always at the bottom.
Churchill was completely against any form of self-determination for Britain.
In every form, man. They always killing the Africans, man.
Colonies,
it's crazy.
And actively wished for Gandhi and his movement to die in failure. Now that I've pissed off the English and made goodwill with the Indians,
it's time
to burn the bridge with my fellow Indians and talk about Gandhi.
Oh, they getting Gandhi? He getting Gandhi out of here?
Fred.
Hey, if y'all new to my channel, man, make sure y'all subscribe.
Time to find our perfect apartment on Zillow.
What Gandhi do?
Don't worry, change will be good.
This man has been rightfully celebrated by India for helping to bring about the country's independence from the United Kingdom. And he's admired internationally for his use of non-violent activism. But despite his lifelong battle against the oppression of Indians by the British Empire, he didn't seem to mind knowing that the same empire was also oppressing Africans, referring to them as savages, half-heathen natives, uncivilized, and dirty.
What I keep saying, why everybody be hating on the Africans, man, on the darker skinned people? What we like, I don't know what we do or what we did to anybody like that. We're gonna see, because you know what I'm saying, he's talking about all the great people, so maybe we'll hear about what the Africans did. But people be just dumping on us like
animals.
Like poop, man.
How someone can have those beliefs about a group of people, but also insist that those beliefs don't apply to his own group is baffling to say the least. It would be a bit like him saying, "Hey Britain, you need to stop viewing Indians as dirty, uncivilized people and give us independence." Oh wait, you meant the Africans? Yeah, I totally agree with you then. Gandhi also had some disturbing ideas about sex. He would conduct so-called tests on his celibacy in order to determine his self-control. To him, lust was an enemy that needed to be destroyed, and he somehow concluded that the best way to defeat it was to sleep with naked teenagers, who were more than half a century younger than him. Despite all these shortfalls of Gandhi, he helped to inspire younger generations throughout his lifetime, convincing leaders around the world to use nonviolent means to advocate for their causes, with one of them being our next great person, Martin Luther King
what Martin
Jr.,
do, bro?
revered for his.
Look, he got Churchill out of there. He got Gandhi, you know, for hating black people and sleeping with teens. And now where we go?
Powerful and inspiring speeches protesting the injustices black people face in America. MLK is rightfully at the top of many lists when it comes to history's greatest people. But if there's one thing confirming that he's still just a human, it was women. Throughout his life as a civil rights leader, women in the movement have been consistently put on the sidelines. Figures such as Ella Baker and Dorothy Height describe their personal experiences of often being made subordinate to male leaders like MLK, despite the fact that they were the same skin color, fighting for the same cause. I guess when he gave his famous "I have a dream" speech and declared that all men are created equal, he really only meant that all men are created equal. And he wasn't much better with women in his personal relationships either, having been a serial cheater to his wife up until his assassination.
Hey, look, man. I know J. Cole said it on the song, but like, I ain't know it was a real thing. Now, he said that he wasn't gonna like knock people for doing something against their times. Now, cheating against any time been crazy, but like, not like y'all gonna kill me in the comments if somebody comment, but you know, women's rights wasn't on the move like that yet. So trying to get all men to be created, we got to fight. It was fighting certain battles. So I don't know if he was there yet. I'm just saying, don't kill him. Don't kill him too bad. Don't kill me too bad, but like, you know what I mean?
Fact, as a deeply religious figure, MLK himself recognized the sinfulness of his infidelity and reportedly felt unworthy of the many accolades people place upon him, not wanting to be treated as a saint. But someone who did want to be a saint and ended up becoming one is none other than Saint Teresa of Calcutta.
She lived a long time. Saint Teresa.
Synonymous with selflessness, Mother Teresa continues to be admired around the world as a humanitarian icon, even receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. The best way to comprehend her impact on the world is by understanding that her primary objective wasn't really to reduce suffering, heal the sick, or even help the poor. Rather, it was to bring as many people to the Catholic Church as possible. Oftentimes, this objective happened to overlap with plenty of good things she did, like building schools and orphanages, feeding people, and taking in those with illnesses. But there were also plenty of moments when her objective didn't do much good, and may have even done more harm to those she was supposedly helping. Many of the facilities Mother Teresa ran were observed as having extremely unhygienic conditions, and a lack of actual medical staff, food, and painkillers. A former volunteer revealed that dying patients were simply given aspirin rather than proper medication, and recalled how needles continue to be reused without being sterilized, which would be horrible today, but was even more horrible during the height of the AIDS epidemic. It gets even worse after you learn.
Look, I'm not gonna say that. Look, before he tell any more information, with the information that we got, you can't really. All right, so down the pyramid, she's trying to help. How much is she seeing of this happening? She might not be getting all the information of, that they only getting aspirins or that they using bad, dirty needles. I'm not gonna put her all at fault for that. So let's keep watching though. Y'all let me know.
Mother Teresa's organization would receive tens of millions of dollars every year, most of which is now believed to be held by the Vatican. Teresa's actions were based on her fundamentalist Catholic beliefs, like her view that poor people suffering in this world was actually a good thing. One saying, "There is something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their lot, to suffer it like Christ's passion. The world gains much from their suffering." It is from this framework of glorifying human pain where we can begin to understand why none of the hundreds of millions of dollars Mother Teresa received over the years went to bringing in doctors to actually help the sick, or why water heaters for washing and cleaning were refused, or why proper medication wasn't purchased. Additionally, a reporter who visited these facilities observed how volunteers would laugh about a boy who urinated while being tied to a bed and saw an older woman tied to a tree. In another orphanage, volunteers would tie up disabled children
see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like this is a Mother Teresa fault for these places being terrible. Like, I understand the Churchill not liking people, Gandhi not liking people, Martin Luther King, infidelity. But on the Mother Teresa, a lot of these are, some of the people at her orphanage are laughing at people. Maybe somebody at her orphanage. Like, these might be other people generally being bad. Or she might not be managing the money. I'm just giving her the benefit of the doubt because all these are not. When he said about the first three people were direct responses to things they were doing. Like, direct quotes of them saying something crazy or doing something wild. These aren't like her tying somebody up or her giving bad drugs or needles. So, like,
without batting an eyelid. There was clearly a general roughness toward people in Mother Teresa's care. So despite being declared a saint by Pope Francis in 2015, to many of her critics, she was certainly anything but. What's the opposite of an old woman who's deeply religious, quiet, and conservative? A young man who's anti-religious, violent, and communist. Yet both are in the same category of those who are venerated by millions around the world while not actually being great people. I am, of course, talking about Mr. Ernesto Che Guevara, the ubiquitous symbol for counterculture and rebellion. He tortured and executed hundreds of people and established Cuba's first military units.
Hey, look at me. I know some history, man. But I don't know this guy like that.
Or concentration camps for short.
Dang.
Tens of thousands of intellectuals, gay people, priests, conscientious objectors, and really anyone who is considered antisocial such as hippies were targeted. Which is especially ironic considering that the very people who celebrate him today would be the exact types of people thrown into these forced labor camps or just straight up executed.
Oh, dang.
Despite having the supposed morally superior ideology, Che referred to gay people as sexual perverts, Mexicans as a band of illiterate Indians, and black people as those magnificent examples of the African race who have maintained their racial purity thanks to their lack of affinity with bathing.
Oh, dang.
Quite the progressive icon.
Hey, look, wait. I thought we was finally finna get some comeuppance for everybody hating us, but then it just went down.
Probably the most ironic thing about Che the anti-capitalist that would have him rolling in his grave would be the fact that his iconic photograph has been making filthy capitalists filthy rich from the very moment he died, selling millions of posters, hats, flags, hoodies, backpacks, mouse pads, shirts, you name it, being commercialized and exploited more than possibly any other figure in human history. Today, his rock star image to most people makes him less Lenin and more Lenin, which, speaking of the devil...
Lenin our next guy? Oh, if you still watch this video, you're new to my channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs. I really appreciate it if you subscribe. That would mean a lot.
Wake up to a new
I know I'm going to keep begging, but like
day.
I'm really trying to hit 1,000 subs. John Lennon. John Lennon was bad? You're not saying nothing. I don't know what John Lennon did. Just music.
Considered one of the greatest musicians of all time, there is no doubt that John Lennon, along with the rest of the Beatles, not you, Ringo, forever changed the world of music. So it's quite understandable why millions of boomers, and frankly, even younger generations adore John Lennon for having created so many songs that continue to be popular to this day. Throughout his life, he was also famous for his commitment to love and peace, and became a symbol for it too. But it's a shame he didn't practice what he preached, given that he publicly confessed to having beaten women, cheated on his wife.
John Lennon was a woman beater? See, this is stuff they don't tell you, man. I only know like because of the hippie type 70s, 60s type Beatles fans. Like they love John Lennon. Like, but this is crazy.
Treated their child like absolute garbage, and then left his family to be with Yoko Ono so they could make whatever the hell this is.
Man.
Perhaps this is why he found it easy to imagine there was no heaven. He probably didn't expect to enter it anyways. But he's far from the only great person to have treated his significant other like crap. Take JFK for instance.
Oh, not JFK. They love JFK here, man. But we know what we all know what JFK did. But I'm American, so if you're not watching this from America, you might not be JFK over here got so much lore. So.
Loved by Americans from both the left and right. Something that is impossible for any of our politicians today. And sure, part of it is the simple fact that JFK was young, attractive, and assassinated.
He actually got assassinated right down the road from where I live.
Comparing that to the two candidates we currently have, where both of them are not young, not attractive, and not assassinated. But an even bigger reason is that we now live in a world where every issue, person, and news story is polarized to such an extent that people will have completely different facts on a subject based on where they get their sources from. Take, for instance, the story about Robert Kennedy Jr.'s Super Bowl ad for his presidential campaign that was very similar to an ad from his uncle, JFK, back when he was running for president. With Ground News, today's sponsor, I can see how there's a blind spot on the right for this story, with only 16 out of 119 sources coming from that side, possibly due to RFK's better approval among Republicans. I'm also able to read through summaries that Ground News creates which highlight differences in what the right and left say about every news story.
Noticed that.
Like how the left is...
Let's get past that.
Ukraine and Israel Palestine to go credible and understanding link at limited value. The president we all know and love who was killed by insert your favorite theory here. But he's also
So
the
many
president
theories.
who is too busy cheating on his pregnant wife while partying in Europe to bother coming back home as she gave birth to their child, who ended up being stillborn. Guess who wasn't much better? Dr. Seuss.
I heard that Dr. Seuss was bad, man. And like he got books that's not published no more that they take off the shelves. But just these are some of the best people.
We all know and
Who
love
don't-
for creating
the kids'
classic
books, man.
children's
Green
books
Eggs and
like The
Ham.
Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham. Ooh, okay, not that one. Wait, not that one either. What the fuck? How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Lorax.
I knew he
and
had bad
so
books,
many
bro.
other stories. But even he, the man whose books touched the childhoods of every generation going all the way back to the boomers, reportedly had an affair, drove his wife of 40 years to suicide, and then married the new woman just 8 months later. Steve Jobs, or as I called him,
not Steve Jobs, bro. I guess people are very Steve Jobs is like being one of the smartest people ever. But like, what do you do?
in my previous
Let me tell y'all. I watched his what's my man name from that 70s show? I can't think his name right now, but his version of like the Steve Jobs, he was only eating fruits. He was a smart dude. Like,
video,
what's the bad
Steve
part?
Apple is considered to be one of the greatest figures in the world of technology, putting aside the fact that he was more of the marketer rather than the creator for these Apple products we know and love. Regardless, in many aspects of his life, he was just a straight up bad father, partner, friend,
Yeah, I saw that
boss,
in his
and
movie.
well, person. From the
I don't
beginning
know about
of
person,
his
but-
career, Steve Jobs tricked his fellow Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak into working day and night on a project for Atari by imposing an unnecessarily stressful deadline. They agreed to split the payout 50-50, but when Atari paid Jobs $5,000, he claimed they only received $700 and so gave his friend $350, who later cried when he found out about it. He also refused to provide his most loyal employees with stock options, which prompted the better Steve to try to do the right thing by giving them money out of his own personal share. Outside of being a terrible boss at Apple, Steve Jobs
I
refused
was thinking of Ashton Kutcher.
to pay a single dollar in child support for his daughter and force his partner to clean houses and live on welfare in order to raise their child. This is all while he was a multi-millionaire, and it wasn't until he was legally forced to provide payment when he finally gave in. On top of all that, he continued to publicly deny that the child was his, even after paternity tests proved that
You are the father.
That's not funny, but it's funny, bro.
And one more thing that might seem insignificant to some people, but what I think says a lot about his character. He would regularly park in handicap spots and drove
Bro, he's
without a
terrible.
license plate because he just didn't like how it made the car look. Yeah, just pure narcissism.
Hey, I watched something, or I heard something. They were like, stuff is only illegal if you can't pay for it. And that's literally him not driving with a license plate or parking the head. Like, if he can pay the fine, it's not illegal. That's just, I
at
don't know.
its finest. So at this
Rich
point,
people, bro.
it seems clear that being smart doesn't prevent people from making stupid decisions. Even Albert Einstein, whose
Albert Einstein, bro. Like, these are all of their, like, the public figures that people love, and they're smart, and like, these are all the guys. But I guess if you smart and good, you gotta have a little bad. Like, it has to be a balance somewhere, you know?
name is now synonymous with genius, had serious
Gotta be a
flaws
little
as
crazy to be a
person.
genius.
The physics prodigy was able to figure out four-dimensional spacetime, relativity of simultaneity, kinematic and gravitational time dilation, length contraction, and most famously, mass energy equivalence, but somehow couldn't figure out how to treat his wife and children like human beings. For one, there's no record of Einstein having ever bothered to meet his first child, and scholars believe that he and his wife gave her up to an orphanage. After having 2 more children with the same wife and deciding to keep them this time, he suddenly decided to start cheating on her with his own cousin.
With his cousin?
And you might assume that it was surely a third
that face make everything make sense.
cousin twice removed or something. But nope, they were first cousins. Their moms were
Sweet Home
sisters.
Alabama.
As if that wasn't bad enough, after his wife found out about the affair, she felt it was still better that Einstein stay with her for their 2 children. But he forced her to accept the following conditions. My clothes are kept in good order. I am served 3 meals a day in my room. We will have no personal relations or affection, unless we're out in public to keep up social appearances. And you must leave my bedroom or study immediately when I ask
Hey man, this some 1920s for you. And she probably did it, man. You try something like this today, bro, your girl is leaving you.
you to. In other words, he told her, clean and organize my clothes, make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner, do not touch me, and shut up and leave whenever I feel like it. To add insult to injury, he would describe his wife as an unfriendly, humorless creature, writing, I treat my wife as an employee whom I cannot fire. She ended up having a nervous breakdown
Dang.
after he decided to still leave her and their 2 children and marry his first cousin. Now, one might have hoped that at the very least, he found his true love in his cousin and remained faithful to her happily ever after. But nah. If anything, he had even more affairs with women during his second marriage than his first. So it seems that if you're smart enough, whitewashed enough, respected enough, talented enough, or die early enough, you can get away from the scrutiny of society and maintain a fairly positive legacy. Look, I'm not saying that we need to...
Hey, I'm gonna stop right there, but remember this. You either die a legend or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And these guys died early enough to be legends. Well, I guess Mother Teresa lived for a long time. Gandhi looked pretty old too, but everybody else, Winston Churchill died. All those people were pretty old when they died. But you know what I'm saying? It was different time. But let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. I don't know. I all these people still got their flaws and they greatness, but you can make anything bad if you got enough facts. Stats mean a lot, and they can just make you see what you want. But let me know what y'all got out of it. I'll comment back to you if you talk to me. Subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs. And yeah, man, until next time.